After 12 episodes, the code is getting a little crusty, and I think it's the right time to clean it up and speed it up before moving on to mobs, which will add a lot of code all at once. This episode will be split into two parts. This first part will focus more on the cleaning up side of things and read just stuff that I should have gone right since the beginning, while the second part will focus more on performance improvements. First order of business, I want to switch to using a pyproject.toml file for configuration and to using Poetry for automatic virtual environment and dependency management, instead of just raw dogging it with pip packages installed user-wide as we've been doing up until now. You can install Poetry like any other Python package with pip install --user Poetry. The first section of our pyproject.toml file here is just simple metadata about the project, such as name, version, description, authors, and a path to a readme file. Next, we need to add all our dependencies. First though, I'm going to create a poetry.toml file to tell Poetry to create the virtual environment in the .venv directory right here in our projects directory. This is where all our dependencies will be installed, and having it close by is going to be useful for our language server in just a bit. Next, we need to tell Poetry which version of Python we want to use, in our case 3.10. Then we can run the poetry add command, followed by the names of our dependencies, pyglet, mbtlib, and base36. On the topic of language servers, let's set one up. I'm going to add Pyrite as a development dependency, and then in pyproject.toml, we need to tell Pyrite to use the virtual environment Poetry created for us in .venv. If you just run it with Poetry run Pyrite, it'll highlight a few issues. There are a couple issues highlighted by Pyrite that we can ignore, so I'll add a bit more config to pyproject.toml to tell Pyrite to ignore them. Now I'm going to quickly fix the issues brought up by Pyrite. And if we run Pyrite again, we should see no more issues. Next up, I'd like to set up a formatter and a linter. To do both these tasks, I'm going to use rough. You can add it as a dev dependency with poetry add group dev rough, and then we can go back to pyproject.toml to configure it. I'm going to go with a line length of 120 characters, use tabs because they're better, and force LF line endings because, of course. In the linter, I'm going to ignore the following errors, and you can pause for a more detailed explanation of why I'm disabling each one. Now, we can run the formatter with poetry run rough format, and the linter with poetry run rough check --fix. --fix tells rough to try its best to fix any issues, but there are still a few that we need to manually fix. On the topic of formatting, I'm going to quickly rename all the class names to use the pep8 recommended Pascal case instead of whatever I was doing before. Last thing I want to do with respect to the code is to create a source directory and move everything except main.py into it. I'm also going to create a chunk directory for chunk related code, a renderer directory for renderer related code, an entity directory for entity related code, and finally a physics directory for physics related code. Don't forget to add dunder init dunder.py files in each directory to mark them as Python packages. Now we've just got to fix up all the imports to reflect our restructuring. We can also put the shaders in their own shaders directory while we're at it, and change their paths when we load them in main.py. Let's run the program again to make sure everything still works, and it does. Something that I did in the GitHub repo was to create a GitHub Actions CI workflow to check formatting and linting, and then another one to do all the regular setup and run Pyrite to type check our code, and that's what that looks like, and you can copy it for yourself by going to the Python Minecraft clone GitHub repo. I apologize if this episode was a bit boring and anticlimactic, especially after the more than 2-year wait, but I promise that the next ones coming up will be a bit more exciting, and they'll most likely not take as long as this one.